Hello, reader and friend. Stories like Outlander can release you from having to be right. I need release from having to be right too. I'm Jenny from JennyWellsReads.com, and I believe discovering a good story helps us live a good story. Whenever I am speaking or teaching, I like to remind you that these stories are your stories. I'm going to spend some time today diving deep into episode 2 from season 4 of Outlander and that part of the books as well, Drums of Autumn. But want to just mention that we can heal through stories. And, we laugh and we cry with these characters. We live through these characters, and sometimes in ways we just can't yet in real life. And oh my gosh, you guys, if you're watching me and you're not a part of the deep diving of the Outlander fan communities, the fan communities went bonkers this week. I am so glad. At first I was like, oh my gosh, I planned on having these Facebook Live videos at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays, and it's like almost been a week since the episodes released in this new season, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like not in the throes of everybody who puts out their what's the word, oh my gosh, they put out their synopsis and their perspectives on the episode. But now I'm really glad, because it gave me a lot of time this week to just process and think about it, because this episode was really a big deal, right? I mean, in the simplest terms, Jamie and Claire have arrived in the New World, in the colony of North Carolina, and they are visiting Jamie's aunt at her estate, River Run, which is gorgeous and beautiful, and employs, well, I guess the employs is not the right word, owns, which hard for me to say, 152 slaves. That's a big deal, right? And so the themes of slavery were really a big deal this year, or this episode. So I was trying to figure out this week how to talk about that. And so many of you have given amazing perspectives. I would specifically recommend checking out Blacklanders, Blacklandrz. I think I spelled it right. I would look at their website. I would look at their feeds on Twitter, because, people of color's response to this episode is super important for people like myself, who are, like so many of us, middle-aged white women. So I would encourage you to go check them out, which I did as well. But I was like, what angle can I talk about this episode as a middle-aged white woman, as someone who adores Outlander? I love the show. I love the books. I love the people involved in it. And my heart is super connected to the decisions that are made. And yes, there are very tough choices that make me wish that I was in the writer room, standing on the table saying, hey, please, please, please give this airtime. But having said that, I believe the story of Outlander can release us from having to be right, because there's no way that I could have come to you today feeling right, feeling like I have something to say. I have a way to encapsulate the last episode and this part of the book that deals with slavery in a way that would make me the oh, just, the expert and all the things. And I'm not saying that other people who, give their incredible time and talent to discussing the episode, try to do that, because I don't believe that at all. I just know for me, my temptation is to want to handle this subject well, and I don't feel qualified. I'm a white woman who has lived in California her entire 50 years. I don't know what it's like to live in the South. I don't know how to do this topic justice. And I picked that word very specifically. So what I want to talk about, though, and what I would love to hear from you about, and I am totally open to hearing your perspective, is how much, so let me back up a little bit. These stories are your stories. I'm going to talk about my interaction with the story, which I'm totally accepting is different from yours. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I really sympathized with Aunt Jocasta. Aunt Jocasta, God bless her, has a beautiful, incredible estate that has 152 slaves. Okay. But I really resonated with her for several reasons. One, she was a great hostess. She really was. She welcomed Jamie and Claire and Ian and his crazy smelling dog. I could not believe that he came in the house. I would be so upset to, have somebody show up with their skunk smelling dog into my home, but she doesn't bat an eye. She just tells them what, we'll work it out and we'll fix it. She's a very gracious hostess. She's a very gracious to Claire. And she has such affection and diplomacy with Jamie. There were so many, quotes that she says in the episode that I just thought were wonderful. One of them was when she says to Jamie, I don't think the lieutenant has ever been spoken to that way. Women have to be very careful when they put their opinion into the mix. She's a woman. And if that's one way that I can relate, not to slavery, not to not being able to being judged by my skin color, not to having a heritage riddled with brutality and poverty. I can't relate to that, but I can relate to being a woman whose voice has been squashed. And Jocasta understands this, and it does mean that the other side of that coin is that she has a very diplomatic, she has a very diplomatic way about her. And I really, really admired that. So I really resonated with Jocasta. I thought she did a really good job, actually, hosting Claire. And then Jamie. Okay, so there's been a lot of critique about Jamie not being masculine enough, that the writers are, not giving him quite the level of king of men-ness, I guess is what I would say, that he deserves, like he is in the books. But here's 3 ways that I saw Jamie really show up in this episode. He intervenes. I think that the way he handled Rufus was pretty great. He ran into the situation. He pulled out his guns. He got that guy off the hook. He intervenes. He's right there with Claire. He shows up. He stands beside Claire. I actually, was able to see that in this episode. And here's the last thing I want to say. Being able to be released from being right as a white woman, that's hard because I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to mess it up with my people of color friends. I don't want to ignore that this is a very white story. And a lot of the criticism this week was about Claire trying to be the white savior. And oh, my friends, I understand this as a person who was in the American church for 45 years. We went on our mission trips. We absolutely believed in being the white saviors. But I don't have to be the white savior of Outlander. I don't have to be the white savior to my friends who are people of color who are experiencing this show. There was such a temptation to get this topic right. And the bottom line is I can't. I so appreciate so many dialogues that happened this week. Thank you so much for showing up and for sharing your perspectives. I personally learned a ton from you. But I want to ask you this week, consider, how do you need to be released from having to be right? Where is it okay to just say, you know what, I'm going to show up. I'm going to intervene. I'm going to stand beside my friends like Jamie did. I'm going to host people graciously, diplomatically. I'm going to bring what I am of my life to other situations. I mean, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble maybe for saying this, but Jocasta's livelihood was built on those slaves. And it was awful, awful. But at the same time, my livelihood is built on, getting to buy inexpensive clothing that I'm not sure how it's manufactured. My livelihood is built on, buying chocolate whenever I want, not knowing, not wanting to really see, kind of squinting at the fact that I understand that child slaves are the ones who are manufacturing it, are part of the manufacturing of it in Africa. I have a way of life too. And I have sympathy for Jocasta because you have to really choose to be very mindful about these situations. But I know that I can't do it right. So these are the kind of themes that, and some of them so far this season have been a little heavy, right? So last week I talked about how Outlander can release us from nightmares and talked about the theme of nightmares that were in episode 1 of season 4. This one is about being right and slavery and heavy stuff. Tonight's is supposed to be a lot of Bree and Roger, which could be super fun. And I would love to have a more releasing, fun topic next week. But we'll see. We'll see how tonight goes. But these are the kind of themes that I talk about in my retreats, Embracing the Sacred Humanity, that is for Outlander fans at this point. So if you are local, come by my bookstore. I am a bookstore owner as well as a speaker and teacher. I would love to meet you. My bookstore is in Grass Valley, California, Jenny's Paper and Ink Books. And if you want to get notified the next time I go live, get on my mailing list at jennywellsreads.com or like my Facebook page, Jenny Wells Reads. If you go to my website, you can see all of the different videos that I've done and the themes that I've explored. So if you like today's conversation, please share this video and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. So remember, discovering good stories helps you live a good story. What do you want your story to be? Have a great weekend, and I hope that you can be released from having to be right. Take care.